This is the Left in the Forgotten Borough podcast. I'm Andrew Savage,
I'm Nancy Richards.
and we have a very special guest today, Carol Bullock, the executive director of the Staten Island Pride Center. Welcome, Carol, to the Left in the Forgotten Borough podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
So much to talk about as we are going forward, but I think we should start with just tell us what the Pride Center is, what services you all offer, and where it is, and how can people access all of that.
So I so appreciate that question because we are the only LGBTQIA plus community center here on Staten Island. www.pridecentersi.org. If you go there, you'll see all of the amazing programs and events that we offer to our community. So we run programming for our youth, our older adults. We do education and outreach across the borough to organizations and businesses, hospitals, schools, whoever wants to listen, we'll talk. We also have behavioral health counseling services. And by the way, everything we do is for free. So, yeah, behavioral health counseling services we do in partnership with Community Health Action. We offer free HIV testing. We have, oh my goodness, we have a dog therapy program, by the way.
Oh,
Oh,
Uh,
that's
cool.
Nancy. Nancy's the dog lady.
I have a great
um,
dog right now.
So we do a lot of events throughout the year that are very meaningful to our entire community. So that's what we do.
And where would location? Where is the
Oh,
Pride?
yeah, thank you for asking that. I'm sorry. So 66 Willow Avenue, it's in Clifton. It's not far from bus routes and train stations and very accessible for public transportation.
Willow Avenue by the gas station over there?
Yeah, if you make a right, there's a building there. We're on the second floor. It's Suite 202.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah.
Sure.
You. All right. So, well, let's talk about the parade. On Sunday we have our famous Staten Island St. Patrick's Day parade. I've been going to that parade since a child, growing up in West Brighton. Um, it is kind of the heart of Staten Island, but has notoriously, um, omitted um, the LGBTQ community, and so. But now this year, um, you guys are marching, right? So you want to talk a little bit about the history and what's going on?
Yeah, for sure. So the history of this started way before my tenure. I started at the end of 2017 and was approached by a few people shortly thereafter that, I should apply for the Pride Center to march in the St. Patrick's Day Parade. And I thought, no big deal, sweet. Um, because I think at this point, people understand that the LGBTQIA plus community intersects with everything, right? Every religion, every ethnicity, etc. And I, quite frankly, was shocked the first time I went, just by the way I was treated and what went down.
How are
And
you treated? How are you treated?
it was just a flat out denial and sort of you don't know, you don't exist, you don't know, you cannot be a part of this. And when I tried to ask questions like, what does that mean? Um, uh, there was no, I was stonewalled basically about, why they wouldn't accept the Pride Center participating in, to your point, Nancy, what is such um, an iconic event here on Staten Island. And just the way it was treated was really horribly. And every year it sort of progressed, and the way that the community support every single year just built up around understanding that this was an example on a much more visible level of how we're treated. Um, uh, it just and the message it sent to a youth who, from my perspective, may think about coming out and seeing the way that we were excluded and discriminated against was really um, just just horrible. And so every single year, I more and more community support, and I've had a lot of conversations. And last every year, by the way, I would hear, "This is the year," right? Um, last year, we were very close. I had a lot of conversations with people who were involved in the community that is involved there, and it didn't happen. It was probably the worst year ever to attempt to apply. And then I got a phone call this year that they called me and invited the Pride Center, I should say, to march. And I met with them shortly thereafter, and I said, "You said that to me last year. Um, and so why should I believe you this year?" And kind of went through that whole thing. But there was a change in who was running the parade committee, and they really talked to me
Matters.
about, sorry,
Leadership matters. So
absolutely, right? And people understood that, I was with them tonight, as a matter of fact, and they were like, "We need to do the right thing." Um, and understanding that many of the LGBTQIA plus community are not only Irish, but they're Catholic. And it's not, I think, as you know, it's not a pride parade. We're not looking to make it that. It's a St. Patrick's Day parade that celebrates Irish heritage. And um, so anyway, I'm just very excited that it's finally happening, and I'm uh, very emotional about it because last year, another organization put together a parade after their parade. And it was so cool. It was a great day, so positive, and people came out and
like
um,
it was two parades. There
Oh, yeah.
were two parades, and I just the timeline history. We were we're the only parade that refused application in the city, and I think across the country. Am I correct? I don't
The
want to get my
globe,
facts.
the globe, I
I
think.
don't.
oh yeah, we should say the Globe because
It
I could have
was the
gone
globe.
to Dublin
Wow.
and marched in their parade.
Yeah, so it's a global issue. So for me, it's sort of come full circle too. I was part of the original contingent of young Democrats who had our little rainbow lapels out in 2011, and we almost got forcibly removed. And of course, we were placed at the back of the parade and all that. And so for me, it's full circle as well. And I'm so grateful to you for the work you've done to make all of that happen.
Listen, it was so many others. I'm standing on the shoulders of a lot of people, trust me. So, appreciate that. Didn't mean to go off about it, but I just, I, I, I'm very excited.
Yeah, and so
So you're gonna have a big party.
yeah, well, Jody's breakfast, the Jody's breakfast,
Great.
right?
My party's going to be marching down Forest Avenue from Hart to Jewett.
Good.
And yeah, and
Good.
so
Cool.
and as much as things have improved and progressed, certainly the Pride Center visibly marching in the parade this year is a milestone. But uh, in the last few years, there's the hostility towards the LGBTQIA plus community has been off the charts. We've seen extremists show up at drag queen story hours, particularly hostility from the president on down with the executive orders targeting the trans community. I grew up on Staten Island. I didn't have an easy childhood as a gay kid on Staten Island. But it seems in a lot of ways that we've regressed over the last few years. And uh, what have you seen at the Pride Center? Has that been the general consensus as well? Have you noticed an uptick in complaints of overt discrimination and hate crimes? What has been the experience there with that?
Yeah, I think that every day there are things that happen here on Staten Island, incidents, whatever they may be, whatever the range of from 1 to 10. And I think that something, for example, like the drag story hour at the museum that day, that was one of the most frightening experiences of my life, honestly. I was very scared that day. I think that you know, I think there was an undercurrent there of the way that people felt and what they felt they could say. And now I think that there's executive orders that come out that empower people and make them feel as though they can say or do things, um, and the bottom line is it creates an undercurrent of fear amongst our community, right? Um, it's one thing to go out and feel like guarded about how you are and what you say and do. It's another now to think I could walk out my front door and my neighbor to the left or right could not be an ally and what that means for me, or the fact that there's only LGBT versus LGBTQIA, right? So we're trying to erase individuals and their rights and it's empowering people and
And
it's scary.
it is. It's quite scary, and it seems to be, at least for me, what I notice looking around. It seems like overt discrimination and hatred, driven by the kind of fear you're talking about, is socially acceptable, unfortunately now. And so what are some of the strategies that you give to people at the Pride Center who come in with those experiences, whether it be youth or anybody else? What are some of the strategies to get through this moment?
Well, I think at the Pride Center, I hate to do this, by the way. For some reason, our TV turned on and I need to mute it.
Okay, that's
How terrible is that, by the way?
okay. This is big tech here, so
Yeah.
Sorry, it was very
I
loud
know
for me.
TV just pushed over. So
Um, I'm sorry, Andrew. Ask your question one more time.
So what strategies like do you suggest for people to live through this moment? You mentioned before there are youth who may be contemplating coming out or potentially are in a difficult family situation where potentially they have relatives or people close to them who support this kind of stuff. So what would you say uh, to those people to get through this moment?
So first and foremost, I would say contact a Pride Center, whether it be the Pride Center of Staten Island or wherever you are, because that's where you find your community. You find people who have been through um, similar, if not the same situations. We can help you navigate, whether it be, again, the mental, behavioral health counseling. It gives you an outlet to talk about how you're feeling. And we have so many other organizations that we collaborate with. We have this whole situation with passports, right? Like there are legal services and we can refer people to organizations that can help them. I mean, personally, my wife and I have to button up some of our estate planning. We're using some of the organizations that we refer to at the Pride Center just to make sure that we are protecting ourselves as well as we can. We're surrounding ourselves with those that we know are going to help protect us and be on our side. And we're also doing a lot of new programming at the Pride Center to really talk about if an executive order comes out, what does that mean for you individually, for our community, and how can you advocate for yourself? How can you advocate for our community and allies to make sure that these things don't hurt you going forward?
Absolutely. So, one of the things that the unfortunate ripple effects of that we've seen is members of Congress and public officials have been more willing to scapegoat, particularly the trans community, for all the problems of the nation. There's a a kind of a weird focus on sports and doing these kind of
Yeah.
verifications to to verify whether somebody is a particular gender or not. And we saw Nancy Mace a couple of weeks ago use a slur in a House committee uh, that is used against trans people. I'm not going to repeat it. Um,
And the welcome that they made, for the new congressperson who came in.
Sarah
Didn't
Pride
didn't Nancy Mace create a resolution or something in
about the
regards to
bathroom.
about the bathrooms? Yeah. So
Yeah, and so it's another smoke and mirrors type issue. But even our own Congresswoman here, Nicole Malliotakis, she has been uh, also beating that drum. She took a picture of herself at one of President Trump's executive order signings regarding the athletic issues with trans athletes. So, how
and just a side note, I see lawn signs on Staten Island where people like you know, mothers who support girls' sports. It's just so convoluted how like you have women who are like, I'm supporting my daughter, and like, and when I defend people are like, you're not defending women. And I'm like, no, 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 no. You're not going down that rabbit hole. Sorry, that doesn't
well,
help.
this is kind of smoke and mirrors. This is not about defending women. If it was defending women, they would want them to have access to reproductive health care for that matter. But we know they don't want that. And so, but what would you say uh, as far as how we push back against political figures who would use the trans community, especially as a scapegoat during this time period?
Yeah, first of all, I think together we're stronger and we've got to we have to support each other and we have to be there for one another. Um I think that um making individuals understand that you cannot erase people. You can't just say no, they don't exist. Um and and what that and what the ripple effects of that are, like it's crazy to me. um Understanding the harm that can do, and I think that it's important for each one of us. Again, I'll talk about advocacy and education. I mean, we go into schools constantly and we educate and we talk about um what it means, what being your true self means, right? And how that's manifested. And if you stifle somebody, the gosh, the self-harm and the drug abuse and all those things that are associated with it. Um, and so I think that you know, we have to advocate. We have to have those conversations. Um, it's Unfortunately, I think that people go to go against things they don't understand. and they cannot sit down and have a conversation about it and understand, and self-reflect. And I think that's our job as leaders in the community, as community members, to take those opportunities, sit down with people and say, I have to talk to you about this. Like, obviously you need education on this. And um, I don't think we can change everyone overnight, but I think,
Introduce, yeah, education. I
yeah,
re I remember when I was teaching, when marriage equality was on the table, um, one of the things that I used to show my students was a segment from If These Walls Could Talk. It
yeah,
was an episode with Vanessa Redgrave, and the kids, they a lot of times the kids kind of think, same sex is sex, but they to see how they were denied as a couple, just basic things like being able to be with her when she was in her at her bedside, the rights to her home that she's lived in for all her life, kind of hiding the whole aspect of, what they were with each other when her nephew, and the fact that the kids were outraged. They're like, why does he get the house? And I'm like, these are protections under marriage. And they saw it as a different, and it for some kids it really kind of sank in how how people are denied equality because and I always liked using that episode when talking about marriage equality.
Nancy, you're dead on. I mean, listen, I do a lot of talks in front of different groups. And right now, we all know if there's one particular case, should it get overturned, it could throw marriage equality back to the states, right? And let's say New Jersey, right over the bridge, says, nope, we don't recognize it. But New York does. Like, what does that mean for my wife and I as far as rights go? And I know there's, some federal safety nets in place, but I don't think any of us really trust that stuff. And we need to know that, if I'm talking to an ally who's married to his wife, how would he feel about that? Right?
Yeah, so exactly. Um so I guess that's why you're talking about like with estate planning, in
Yeah.
regards to taking care of making sure that you have securities in regard. I mean, we think as women like we would always have protections under Roe, and now
Yeah,
and
exactly.
here we are today, so yeah, so there you go. um Having, I guess, these kind of educational workshops is probably very important right now, especially with the times, definitely. So
Yeah, and well, I don't want it to be all doom and gloom, even though that's our reality. I just,
just
I,
thinking that I'm going,
this
oh,
is,
how do we lighten it up? Okay.
this is really like, ooh. But and so, we have the parade as a point of celebration. That's really a fantastic thing. But in your time as executive director of the Pride Center, first of all, how long have you been the executive director of the Pride Center?
Since the end of 2017. So about 7 years. Yeah.
And so, what are you most proud of about your time at the Pride Center? What is something you've accomplished, or what is something you've all done together that really, when you think about your time looking back, you're like, that was terrific.
It's funny. I have a lot of people asking me that question. I think it's twofold. Number one, of course, growing the budget, which has allowed me to grow our programming, and hire an amazing staff, by the way, that not only saves lives, but has been able to pivot our programming based on the needs of the community. Super proud of all of them for that. Um, and I would say the second thing is the relationships and the collaboration. The one thing that I've really put a lot of effort into is not only building relationships with our electeds and, whether that be local, state, federal, but also other organizations here on Staten Island and making individuals understand that uh, you may be running one particular organization, but at the end of the day, the LGBTQIA community is in all of them.
Hmm.
We're in every single one of them. So how can you help our community, whether it be autism or whether it be interfaith, whatever it may be, um, how can we help each other and work together? So I think that's something that just the relationships here on Staten Island with those leaders has been really um, something that runs deep with me.
Very good. And your retirement is when? When are you stepping down? Not sort of. What's
Well, I'm finished with the Pride Center at the end of March. I may do some consulting with the organization for a little bit, but it's in my blood now, my DNA. So after we take a little time and enjoy some camping and all that good stuff, I'm sure that Staten Island hasn't seen the last of me.
good because you're beloved. I'm sure
Yeah.
they don't.
And so
So
so what's next? What are you contemplating? I know you said some consulting and camping and fun stuff, but do you have any idea of what's on the road beyond that?
I don't. I think, Andrew, that's such a great question, and everyone thinks I have a master plan, and I really don't. I'm a simple girl who just wants to really enjoy life. I think my wife and I always talked about someday, someday. So we want to do that, but I think that again, it's in my DNA, and I think that with the times that are here, um, you know, there's going to be a way that I step in and help our community in one way or another.
Yeah, what
sorry.
Thomas Paine said, sometimes the times find us.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm in retirement sort of right now, and though technically I'm retired, I'm still doing 9,000 things. And it's got nothing to be like, I need to be busy. I'm not, this is the opportunity now where I get to try all of these other things that I really couldn't do because you know, I was teaching. So there's more stand up for me. I'm going on a cruise this week. So, there's a lot of stuff. Yeah. And also figuring out like, where's my hat going to be, next. And it doesn't just happen. So enjoy figuring that out. So, and,
Yeah, thank you. I think the beauty is we just don't feel rushed. Um,
that's it.
but I also think that again back to the relationships that I built and even up in Albany that hopefully I can continue to help us especially Staten Island move forward, right? So
Well, thank you so much, Carol Bullock, for being on the podcast. It was such a wonderful conversation, and I look forward to seeing what you're going to do next. And well, in the immediate term, I'm going to be on the corner of Hart Boulevard cheering you on Sunday. So that's going to be really fun. And if you're at Jody's, maybe I'll stop by there too. Although I don't really want to have breakfast with Nicole Meliatakis, but
You'll
listen,
be there. So the
it's
parade is at Sunday at 1 o'clock, right?
it's Sunday. We step off at 12:30 apparently.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's and there's a camera there, so she'll be there. So Nicole will be there. But so well, thank you so much, Carol, and we'll be in touch. And thank you for all you've done and what you'll continue to do, and the lives you've impacted and saved.
And thanks
Listen,
for coming on the
Yeah, I just want to say thank you both so much for having me on. It's just so great to be able to talk about the Pride Center. This